Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Minister, the reason I'm speaking today is for an update on the commitment which is in the programme for government to examine ways to make it easier and more transparent for people on work permits to change jobs legally. Last week I visited the Migrants' Rights Centre and had a great discussion with them, and I met multiple people who've come into this country with the interest to work. But there's a matter of basic fairness and upholding our international reputation as a country that respects the rights of workers.
Thanks, Deputy.
Minister.
Deputy Heneghan, thanks very much for your question. A well-functioning labour market and good working conditions are an essential component of sustainable and inclusive growth, and as part of the efforts to maintain this, the Government operates an employment permit system which is highly responsive to the labour market. I recognise the value, the role migrants workers play in Irish society, particularly in critical areas such as healthcare and ICT. 2024 saw significant progress in the implementation of changes to the employment permit system to address the commitments now set out in the programme for government. The Employment Permits Act of 2024 introduced several improvements to the employment permit system, making it more flexible. This includes the provision of new changes of employer processes facilitating permit holders to move jobs more easily. Permit holders on the two main permit types can change to a new employer under the existing permit after a period of 9 months has passed since commencing their first employment permit in the state. This has made it significantly easier for permit holders to seek more favourable working conditions and ensure employers provide the required conditions.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy.
I welcome the fact that there is movement on it, but at the heart of the issue is a simple question of fairness. Workers who come to Ireland on employment permits are legally present, paying taxes, contributing to our essential sectors like you just mentioned. Yet once they arrive, they find themselves tied to a single employer under rigid rules that limit their ability to change jobs. And I spoke to one of these migrants who was a mushroom picker, and the conditions that they were in, and they felt like they were stuck to this job, and it's not acceptable. If you go back at where we were, and you know yourself, we're a proud nation who emigrated and worked in these jobs, and when we look at the people who left this country, we should be fighting for the people who are coming to this country in the same right. We've heard countless stories, and I have just mentioned one there. In some cases, they're left waiting too long for decisions, they feel like they're trapped, and at worst case, it leaves people vulnerable to the abuse of employers, because employers know that these people don't have another option.
Thank you, Deputy. Minister.
Yeah, Deputy, and again, listen, I understand the issues that you're raising in relation to migrants, some stories that we have received, and I have engaged also with the migrant refugee representative body to ensure that they're listened to, that I suppose their members are front and centre in relation to any enhancements we can make to the scheme. And indeed, we have looked at how the grants of reactivation permits are, in one sense, supported. Again, what we want to do is work with either the Department of Justice in that regard, but also, I suppose, ensure that we help support non-EU workers in difficult circumstances, but also highlighting the changes. We have implemented a new online employment workers permit system. I think that will have an additional benefit in terms of user interaction, real-time data in terms of how permits are being processed, and we would continue to engage with yourself in any further suggestions that you may have to support this.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy.
And I really welcome the fact that you are engaging with these industries, and I think you should continue to do that. I'd also like your department to look at the fee that migrant workers are paying. Off the top of my head, it's 200 yearly. It's an unfair. I think it should be reduced because they really are struggling, these people. They're coming here to work. Workers should not have to choose between leaving a bad situation and risking their legal status. We can and must do better, and I welcome the fact that your department is doing that, so thank you very much. The real question is, Will we see legislative reform in this area in 2025, and will your department commit to a clear set of reforms that put mobility worker rights and transparency at the centre of the work permit system? Margaret.
Thanks, Deputy.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Deputy, for your input. And indeed, we are open to any suggestions or proposals. And again, we will work through any enhancements that are needed within the system. I don't think it should be a rigid system. It should be agile and flexible to meet the needs of our current labour market. If there's general work permits or critical skill work permits that are required, we do actively update on the needs analysis in relation to what sectors require increased quota or not. And indeed, we do need to put workers front and centre in relation to any inappropriate conditions that they may be subjected to. And you're right, mobility within the sector is important. We have made additions in relation to the 9 months eligibility requirement to move, but also we need to ensure that they're not moving from one sector to the same sector and have challenges around where that employment is, because if they're based in Dublin or based in the west or the south, it might be a real restrictive barrier with family and school, etc., to allow for that mobility. And I will work with yourself and
Minister.
work with the migrant community to ensure that that's the case.
Thanks,
Thank
Deputy.
you.
Thank you, Minister.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.